There are seasons in life when it feels like no one is watching. You wake up early, carry your responsibilities, and do what needs to be done. You give your best at work, at home, in relationships, and in faith. Yet at the end of the day, no one says thank you. No one notices your effort. No one acknowledges the weight you carry. In those moments, a quiet question begins to form in the heart. Does any of this matter? Does anyone truly see me? This is one of the deepest struggles of the human soul, not suffering alone, but suffering unseen. Many people are not broken because life is hard. They are broken because their faithfulness feels invisible. You may be doing the right thing in silence. You may be choosing patience when it would be easier to give up. You may be loving people who never return that love. And still, it feels as though your life is passing by unnoticed. But Scripture gently reminds us of a truth that changes everything. Even when no one sees you, God does. God does not overlook quiet obedience. He does not miss hidden faithfulness. He does not ignore tears shed in private or prayers whispered when words are scarce. The world measures value by visibility. God measures value by the heart. Jesus himself lived much of his life unseen. Before crowds followed him, before miracles were witnessed, before his name was spoken across nations, he lived decades in ordinary, unnoticed faithfulness. He worked with his hand. He lived among people who did not fully understand who he was. He prayed in secret. He obeyed in silence. And the Father saw every moment. When Jesus withdrew to lonely places to pray, no one applauded. When he obeyed the Father in suffering, few recognized the cost. Yet Scripture tells us again and again, God was watching. This truth matters because many of us are living in similar hidden places today. You may be caring for someone who depends on you, yet feels unable to thank you. You may be working honestly in an environment that rewards shortcuts instead of integrity. You may be choosing faith while others choose comfort. And sometimes it feels lonely. But hidden does not mean forgotten. God sees what others miss. He sees the choice you made when no one was there to praise you. He sees the restraint you showed when anger would have been justified. He sees the faith you held on to when doubt pressed in, and he values it deeply. The Bible tells us that God looks at the heart, not outward appearance. This means your unseen moments matter more than your visible ones. The prayer no one hears, the kindness no one acknowledges, the obedience no one celebrates. All of it is seen by God, and not only seen, but remembered. Many people believe that being seen by God means being evaluated or judged, but Scripture reveals something far more comforting. God does not watch us like a critic. He watches us like a loving Father. He sees your effort, not just your outcome. He sees your faith, not just your success. He sees your perseverance, not just your progress. When you feel overlooked by people, it does not mean you are overlooked by God. In fact, some of the most meaningful work God does in us happens in seasons where no one else is paying attention. Because it is there, away from applause and recognition, that faith becomes real. If everyone noticed, faith would be easy. If everyone applauded, obedience would feel rewarding. But when you continue walking forward without recognition, faith is refined, and God is present in that refining. If you are in a season where your faith feels unseen, this message is for you. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are not wasting your life. God sees you, and in His time, what He has seen in secret will bear fruit in ways you may not yet imagine. Hold on to this truth as we continue. Even when no one sees you, God does. Holding on to the truth that God sees us does not always make life easier, but it does give us a place to stand when everything else feels uncertain. Because even when we believe God is watching, there are days when His presence feels distant, days when the prayers feel heavy, days when the waiting feels endless, days when obedience feels lonely. It is in those moments that faith is tested, not by suffering, but by silence. Silence has a way of making us question what we once believed with confidence. It causes us to replay our prayers and wonder if they mattered. It tempts us to measure God's care by visible outcomes. Yet Scripture never teaches us that God's nearness is proven by constant movement. More often, God reveals Himself in stillness. When Elijah looked for God, he was not in the wind, the earthquake, or the fire. He was in the gentle whisper. That whisper still speaks today. God often works in ways that do not demand attention. He shapes hearts quietly. He strengthens faith slowly. He remains present even when nothing dramatic appears to be happening. This is difficult for us because we live in a world that celebrates immediacy. We are taught to expect quick results, clear signs, and visible rewards. But faith does not grow according to the rhythm of the world. Faith grows in patience. Faith grows in endurance. Faith grows in the quiet decision to keep trusting when answers are delayed. If God were to reveal everything at once, we would rely on understanding instead of trust. So sometimes, He allows the journey to remain unclear, not because He is absent, but because He is inviting us to walk with Him, not ahead of Him. In these unseen seasons, God is not watching from a distance. He is walking beside you. He sees the effort it takes to remain faithful when no one notices. He sees the discipline it takes to pray when hope feels thin. He sees the courage it takes to continue loving when your heart feels tired. And He is not indifferent to any of it. Scripture tells us that God keeps record of every tear, not because He needs evidence, but because He cares deeply. What feels small to you is not small to Him. The days that feel repetitive, the responsibilities that feel heavy, the sacrifices that feel unnoticed, all of these are woven into a larger story. One, that God sees clearly, even when we cannot. Sometimes we mistake God's patience for distance, but patience is one of the purest expressions of love. God waits not because He is unaware, but because He is attentive to the right time. He knows when you are ready to receive what you are asking for. He knows when a door must remain closed to protect you. He knows when strength must be built before change arrives. And until that moment comes, He stays. He does not leave you alone in the waiting. He does not abandon you in the uncertainty. He remains. This is why being seen by God matters so deeply, because His gaze is not passive. It is sustaining. It gives strength to continue when motivation is gone. It gives peace when clarity is missing. It gives meaning to obedience that feels unseen. If today you are standing in a quiet place where your faith feels unnoticed, your prayers feel unanswered, and your efforts feel invisible, know this with certainty. You are not alone. God sees you exactly where you are. He sees the weight you carry. He sees the choices you make when no one is watching. He sees the faith you hold on to even when doubt whispers. And He is pleased not because you are perfect, but because you are faithful. You do not need to prove your worth. You do not need to be louder, stronger, or more visible. You only need to keep walking, because the God who sees you is also the God who walks with you. And in His time, what has been carried in silence will be met with grace. So take heart. Even when no one sees you, God does. And He is not finished with you yet. If this message brought you comfort or strength, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe. We continue this journey of faith together, resting in the truth that we are fully seen and deeply loved by God.